Hello, everyone, and welcome into CrushTheStreet.com. I'm Kenneth Amaduri. I'm joined today with Craig Cecilio, and he's the CEO of DiversyFund. His website, DiversyFund.com. Crowdfunding, peer-to-peer solutions, real estate. And again, real estate is just something that was one of my original passions. It still is. I own a number of properties. I'm involved with peer-to-peer lending. And real estate is a vehicle that I love to invest in. There's a limited amount of land out there. There's cash flow with real estate. There's appreciation. It's an inflation protected asset. And you know what? It's something that is very much needed. And it goes back for thousands of years. Craig, let's start our conversation here on real estate and crowdfunding. How are you doing today, sir?
Great. Doing pretty well, Ken. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course, of course. Well, if you wouldn't mind, let everyone know how you got your feet wet in real estate and where your passion stemmed from.
We could go way, way back to the time I was probably a little kid. I always had this entrepreneurial spirit about things. And so real estate was a natural, organic evolution for myself. Got my license back in 1998. I moved to California in 1997, and I started dabbling in real estate back then. The year 1999, I was around, let's say, a mentor who taught me a little bit about real estate syndication, which caught my interest, and it was something unique. It was just not real estate, it's more real estate syndication. And like anything else, I dove headfirst into it and became pretty much obsessive about it. And during that journey, I dabbled in everything in the real estate markets and real estate fields. And evolution took me to the fact when I heard about crowdfunding in 2013, 2014, this is great. I'm like, this is fantastic stuff. This is just the syndication stuff I did before, but using technology to leverage it. And I would call it this real estate syndication kind of on steroids. And with the passage of all the regulations through crowdfunding, which there is a lot of specific regulations that got passed, you're able to open these investments up to the general public. And you're able to do online direct solicitation to the general public for the first time in the history of the U.S., actually.
Yeah, I can imagine it's an unprecedented territory in many ways. And I actually wanted to ask you about that. How are the regulations in this space deemed? Is it considered a security to the SEC, or what are we looking at?
The regulations were passed in the Jobs Act of 2009, but they didn't get enacted really to the first one was 2013. I believe another phase was in 2015. So it really didn't get put into action until many years later. So the regulatory agency is the SEC and FINRA.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, obviously brand new. Are you concerned at all in someone investing their money at this point and the SEC or FINRA coming in and shutting this down? Or is the forward progression pretty clear?
The forward progression is pretty clear. I believe it's just like anything else. It's how you operate a business at the end of the day and how well structured your business is. As far as the compliance side, I've been doing this for 20 years. I do have a business partner who comes from the corporate securities world on Wall Street, so he's aboard as well. So we're really tight with our compliance, and we're taking our time developing new products and staying kind of within our box and really focused on real estate and markets that we do know right now.
Sure. Okay, Craig, so let's talk about crowdfunding. And I love it. It's kind of like the Uberization of banks in a way. This is a sidestep of having to go to a traditional bank, but really having access to, everyday people and people being able to transact and do business with one another. It's another means for that. So it's really cool. And I guess my question to you is, why does the average person choose to borrow money in a place like DiversyFund versus the average bank?
That's a great question. Actually, we have a vertically integrated platform, which is a lot different than other types of platforms out there. And the way we interpret crowdfunding, because you can interpret it any which way you want, and the way we interpret it is, how do we get a quality product up on our site that someone can invest in who otherwise may have not invested in real estate before or haven't had access to these types of investments. So we kind of developed our platform where we are not the broker, we are the developer. We actually hold title to all the assets. So either we are the developer of the project or the co-developer of the projects. So that allows us more quality control, more transparency in the transaction, as well as we're an institutional grade quality organization. So we do leverage our crowd with bank loans and institutional grade investments. So I'd say that would be the big difference. Whereas other platforms out there, when the bank says no, people are going to the platform to get their project funded. Well, there's usually a reason why the bank says no, especially in these markets. It's because usually someone is not qualified enough, doesn't have the experience, doesn't have the assets, doesn't have the balance sheet, or some other reason. And this is, again, there's exceptions. There's always exceptions. But I'm not looking at exceptions. I'm looking at the actual numbers. And people should look at that and say, hey, we're not doing this. We're not building our organization based on exception. We're building our organization based on the data. And that's where we're focused on. So by us focusing on this, within the last 12 months, we were able to put $100 million of assets under management, and we raised all the funds to acquire those assets through the crowd.
That's powerful. So why aren't big banks getting involved with crowdfunding, or at least taking on these other risks or higher returns? Is it just not part of their business model that they should be focused on, or what's the deal with that?
I think it's a little premature for them to get involved. We're at the infancy stage, some people call it, and compare it to 1996, the year of the internet, where we were back then. So it's so new. So I think a lot of people are just really watching it and seeing how it is developing. And in today's present environment and administration, what are they going to do with regulation as well? So you might see some acquisitions down the road here. There's a lot of political stuff going on. So I think a lot of people are kind of on the fence watching and see where this is going to materialize and how they could benefit from it. Banks are trying to get involved. They're trying to get involved by leveraging maybe lines of credit to some platforms, maybe buying some paper from the platforms, but they're more on the sidelines kind of watching right now.
So Craig, what differentiates you guys from, let's say, a Peer Street in terms of a real estate crowdfunding investment?
The biggest difference is that we are not a broker. We do not sponsor third parties. We hold title to the properties, and we are the developer of those properties. That would be the biggest difference. Other differences are that we allow investors to choose the asset they want to invest in, as well as have the option of investing to a fund which is collateralized by multiple assets. So we give that individual that chance and that opportunity to do either or.
Okay, so take us through an investment, if you would, and what it would be like for somebody who wanted to invest. I'm just curious about the process and how this would look.
So I guess start way at the beginning. So I'm going to start somewhere in the beginning process. Mainly through our relationships, we choose to do a project. So we put that project in escrow, we throw a deposit down, we get it there. Then we package together, underwrite it, put it on our platform, and then it goes live. And once it goes live, through marketing and PR and through our database of existing investors, they all look at that investment, and if they choose to do it, they click a button, fill out their information, and they could, another screen pops up and they could fill in all their banking information, and they hit a button and their funds get wired over. There's a little back end process that we have to process that and do a couple checks on that money to make sure it's in compliance. And if it's in compliance with that offering, then it goes live into our account, and that person or entity starts receiving interest on their money at that point in time. And the way our instruments are created is some are passive, more income-oriented, and some are growth-oriented. So the higher returns are growth, which means is they get paid the return when we sell the property, when we develop it up and sell the property, whereas some are income-oriented where they get quarterly payments on the investment opportunity.
And if somebody wanted to actually decide on investing, I mean, what is your typical criteria for somebody, wanting to decide to invest with you guys? Let's say it's a cash flow opportunity. What sort of boundaries do you guys go by?
The particular person coming to us, it's all automated. It's all online. So they could go and they could look at all the due diligence paperwork online. They could even call in and ask questions if they had additional questions to our investor relations department. They're able to do the whole transaction online. On the back end of the website, they have their own investor portal, which has updates on there, shows them the investment, has all the paperwork stored for them online on the platform. So it's pretty much opened up to everybody. And the big difference here is where I haven't emphasized this yet, which is, hey, what's different about this? Well, a lot of the good investments out there are $1 million, $5 million, $10 million. They're large investments. The average Joe, the average person who wants to invest $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, $5,000, $1,000, they're not going to have that opportunity. The person who needs that money for that project is usually going to hire a broker-dealer who's going to charge a lot of fees to do it, in which those fees come out of the investor's pocket, or they're not going to talk to you unless you have $1 million. So most of the population doesn't have access to these investments because of that reason. And a lot of these are really good investments. They're in prime markets, prime properties. And so just because the dollar amount was so high, you're not allowed access. So it's kind of in that thing. And as a brokers, they don't get paid a commission. They do get paid a commission on that. And so they're not going to talk to someone who's got $5,000 to make a commission. They want to talk to someone with $5 million. So they're not motivated. Their world's not motivated to get people involved. So now we're leveraging technology and say, hey, we're using technology. We could still close a transaction in 30 days. And so the people in the real estate field still come to us because they know we could close that transaction. And we're able to do that because now the masses can look at this investment anywhere in the U.S. at any time, and they can invest online in real time. So that is just, I believe, an amazing opportunity for everyone who has not had the opportunity to invest in real estate. And as well as we send out, today we're sending out monthly updates on all our projects so they can kind of see the process a little bit. We're constantly updating stuff online through social media, through our platform, so they can actually learn a little bit about the process as well.
Craig, so what sort of protections do investors have then when they invest in this fund? Let's say a project goes south. What is in place to keep the company honest and for the investor's principal to stay intact as best as possible?
Well, first of all, would be considered a limited partner, so they would be on title. They'd own ownership interest in the entity that owns the property. So, in addition, our company, the parent company, DiversyFund, owns all the assets. So we're a pretty institutional grade quality organization. So we go out there and we have a good balance sheet. So we have multiple assets. The chances of something happen to us is very, very low in that respects. And we all do know at the end of the day, real estate does have its positives and negatives with markets going. So we're very careful based on our 20 years of experience. My 20 years of experience is really to look out for our investors. We're able to handle any type of situation that has arisen. I mean, I survived the downturn. I know how those days were, but I came out pretty much unblemished with that. So we have a lot of experience and wherewithal to deal with issues, to kind of spearhead them and jump forward and take care of those issues. And at the same time, we're very selective on our projects. I mean, what's the number one thing in real estate to make money on an investment is how you buy that. Is that a good Is that a good project? Is that a good piece of real estate? And to do that, having that year's experience, having those relationships really minimizes that as well. So you have invested in the best projects possible. You're backed by an organization that's got a balance sheet. And at the end of the day, you own part of the project. I mean, that's pretty secure, I would say, compared to everybody else.
Yeah, no, that's it's very good points. And really, I've heard many people say that when you buy real estate, you make your money on the purchase, capturing equity on the front end and just knowing your numbers going forward. And that's basically what you're saying. So, Craig, if people want to learn more about the fund, how they can invest, and what they will find if they visit your website, just kind of give us some closing thoughts here. And thanks for coming on Crush the Street.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Well, you can visit our website, www.DiversyFund.com, and it should have all the information on there. If it's lacking any information, feel free to give us any feedback. There's contact information there. You can email into our investor relations department. I think we have a chat. Also, there's a phone number on there. And we're always constantly improving our website to put the education out there depending on what you need. If you're already a real estate investor and you want more details about the project itself, we're always updating that to make sure that fits your needs. If you're new to real estate, we want to make sure we have enough information where you really understand the invest in real estate. And if you're new to invest in alternative investments, we want to make sure there's information up there that gives you a little bit of a background information of how to invest your money at the end of the day and not stick all kind of your eggs in one basket.
All right, Craig. Well, hey, thanks for coming on crushthestreet.com. Exciting information in real estate. Again, close to my heart. So anyone who's interested in learning more about Craig's company, visit the website in the description area. And again, sir, thanks for coming on Crush the Street.
Great. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it.